The base innovations that started all this off, go back to the early 2000s when we first start doing neural network work on language, and more recently, and leading up to 2018 when the transformer model that was developed, which is the core model architecture under a lot of this different technology. What's happened in the last few years is the technology has really scaled up. It's scaled up on what it learns from, in terms of learning from large fractions of the internet and other giant databases of information. And it's also scaled up in terms of the number of internal parameters, or numbers that describe the mathematics that it's doing behind the scenes to create language.
When we think about who it's being created for, it's really who is using it, who could be touched by it, and really thinking about the downstream impact. So we really have to be creative about anyone who can be touched downstream in future use cases of the AI. And that's why it's really hard to create AI without having a diverse group that is thinking about it, creating it, and testing it, because you can only imagine as broadly as your experience and imagination enables. And I would say it boils down to two essential ingredients. There are humans and there is data. There is many other complications and iterations along the way, but at the end of the day, it is humans designing these AI algorithms and programs, and it is built on, tested, and iterative based on data that is reflective of our conversations and our human interactions, which are going to have biases and other limitations.
I agree with a lot of what Miriam just said, and I think they're all really important points. So if you think about what a large language model is today, it's trained on language only. So it's not only to make the system more fair and equitable. It's today, even to just make the system useful, you have to put the people in so that it can start to put some constraints on what kinds of statements these systems like to make, how they like to talk, what problems they think they're capable of solving and which ones they aren't, whether or not they're going to be truthful about historical information. All of this stuff requires feedback from people to really have up-leveled the models.
And just to double click on that, if you don't have humans in the loop, you won't be able to identify new use cases and new opportunities and really grow your consumer base. If you're using AI in a pivotal way, you no longer can think of yourself as a product company, a service company. You need to really think of yourself as an AI company. And what that means is you need to have a responsible governance program in place. You need to think about who is accountable for what this AI will advise you on. If you're using it in HR functions, if you're using it in any financial determinations, healthcare, any ways where it can be impacting people, your employees, consumers in meaningful ways, you need to have a plan in place to identify these potential risks, cyber threats, as well as biases and other discrimination that can create liabilities and harms.
To kind of go back to the point that the machines don't have this robust set of values based on kind of a full or thick understanding of the world. How do you solve for that, right? Obviously, you could have a person standing over the machine at all times saying, like, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. But that kind of defeats the purpose here, right? That doesn't really scale quite right. The other way you can do that is with very domain-specific data, right? Because domain-specific data encodes the behaviors and the attitudes that are specific to that area. Obviously, we think about conversational data all the time, right? It's kind of our business at LivePerson. So that domain conversational data is data that that can really enforce a set of behaviors on the model in that context.
When you're talking to someone from a different culture, a different region, a different specialization, you're going to want to emphasize different points. And likewise, the more data you have, the better, but it will also have biases, oversights. It will over-index, under-index on different populations based on how it's been trained. And so on the one hand, more data does help you create better models that understand and can operate better based on additional information. On the other hand, it creates more need to make sure that you have a governance system in place so that you're capturing where there are increasing gaps in the knowledge. The more you know about what populations are under or overrepresented, the more you know the context in which it was obtained and how it was trained, what were the use cases for which it was trained, you'll know what to look out for. So I think of your use of AI is similar to your word. You need people to know that the outcomes that you're suggesting, that the product that you're offering that may be enabled by an AI in some way is trustworthy. So in no small way, responsible AI governance is the building of trust. And EqualAI is just released an algorithmic impact assessment tool to help people take best advantage of that playbook.
It's important for us all to keep in mind that every system that any human has ever made is full of bias. We can't let the notion that there might be bias that exists in our work stop us from doing anything, but we equally cannot let it let ourselves ignore the impacts of that bias, and we should be held responsible if we do. The notion that models should begin to learn from different modes of information is critical. It will provide a much more robust understanding of the world. It has already begun. You have models that can connect text and images, models that understand video, models that understand all sorts of media, and then can create a sort of system, an internal system of thought of their own that can merge that.
So I think responsible AI governance is only going to become more and more important the more it's having a pivotal impact on your life. So we will at EqualAI be doing a lot of work to make sure that we are broadening the scope of who we talk to, creating more tools so that responsible AI governance becomes like cybersecurity, where everyone understands that it is something that needs to be a part of their good AI hygiene.